Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. I'm attempting to stream live. I am just getting throttled on this channel by YouTube. So hopefully it will air without too much buffering and without it looking like I'm under Vaseline or something. When I film these in advance, my camera produces a video that's crystal clear. Why YouTube is airing it on like about 100 resolution. Yeah, go figure. Anyway, we are going to continue our conversation that so many of you contributed to in such a marvelous way. I love my Healthy American audience. We've been talking about the spraying in the air. And one of my subscribers said, Peggy, it's like the people who don't want to admit that it's happening, they're the naysprayers. Isn't that funny? Because I always, I call people the naysayers, and I want to be surrounded by yay-sayers like you are. So I thought that was absolutely fabulous. I would love for you to go back and watch that video. I will link it for you at the end of this one. And that is all about, look at them, our pretty clouds. There was a commenter that got confused at my satire. I'm not saying that people in the countryside don't see what's going on. It's the exact opposite. Many of us are awake, and it's those people that have their head in the sand and don't want to see what's going on that are just kind of going along their business and not really paying attention. I'm just kind of doing a funny, weird accent. So have to explain my satire apparently, or my snark. Anyway, we are going to talk about two things. And if I remember, I want to share with you a lovely thank you note from a Healthy American, long overdue thank you. And so many of you are sending me cards and letters. There is a snail mail address in the description box. Simply Peggy Hall, 205 Avenida del Mar, number 681, San Clemente, California, 92674. I do endeavor, with the help of my lovely Rhonda, who is also a moderator, to send you a thank you note and let you know how much your support and your financial donations, but mainly your encouragement and your prayers, help me persevere. This topic of the spraying in the skies is such a heavy one, because like I can't get a religious exemption for that, and neither can you. Everyone is affected by it. It is so widespread, and they have been at this for a long, long time. Some of you also mentioned in the comments, very astutely, I might add, with an insight along the lines of, people that are in their 20s, they probably don't know what real skies look like. And some of you also mentioned that some of the cloud names that were new to me were not new to you. And of course, those were actual clouds. Well, those were only classified in 2018. So perhaps you had seen them, but they never were given a classification of a name in the cloud classification system until very recently. And that's because it is becoming more apparent to many of us. You just can't hide it. I mean, it's so obvious. I'm going to share some images with you, but I really want to talk about this article that a Healthy American sent me from Dr. Mercola. And I realize not everybody follows what he likes to say, but the information that he is sharing is sound. And I'm going to share that in just a moment. And at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to share with you a very lengthy email that came in from a Healthy American in Florida, of all places. And wait until I read this to you, and it will probably knock your socks off. What I want to do is thank the sponsor of this video. Friends, I am not monetized by YouTube. YouTube itself does not pay me a penny, but I do have a couple of long-term sponsors that actually see value in my message. And so they want me to share their message with you. And that's how I'm able to bring you these videos at no charge to you whatsoever. So just bear with me for a moment here as I let you know all about trimwithpeggy.com. And if your New Year's resolution is still going strong, or you need some help with it about health and fitness, you are not alone. A recent study reveals that 50% of Americans want to control their weight, and that's at the top of their list this year. So that's why myself, along with thousands of other people, are trying out this Trim with Peggy. It's called Belly Trim. You can find it at trimwithpeggy.com. And it's an amazing supplement that is designed to help you control your weight. So if this is of interest to you, check it out. See if it's a good fit. This supplement helps to control your appetite. It manages excess weight. It helps to reduce fat, control cravings, and increase energy. I mean, that sounds pretty darn good. It's got unique science-backed ingredients formulated to reduce weight. It's non-GMO. These are all natural ingredients. And when you try this out, it does come with a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. You get free shipping, and you get several free bonuses about how to trim your tummy. So if that is of interest to you, please check it out, trimwithpeggy.com. Friends, we are talking about what in the world, what in the non-spinning world is going on with our skies. And it is really becoming evident because more and more people are speaking about it. There are several states, well, by several, I mean 3 states that are putting forth legislation to stop this. But I was a little disappointed to find out that in the state of Rhode Island, they've been working on this for 8 years at least in their legislature. And I could not find any law that was actually passed. I saw bills that were put forth, and when I tried to research them to see what had happened, I really came up at a dead end. If you live in Rhode Island or you know someone who does, please fill me in on the laws that are related to geoengineering. That's the language that they used in the law. And then there's also New Hampshire. And there's also South Dakota. This is very promising. Even if these bills are not going forward, it's promising in that the information is getting out there. And even at the legislative level, these representatives, I mean, are they immune to this as well? Isn't everyone concerned about what's going on in the sky? But here's where some of my concern lies. And that's where a lot of these organizations, I'm not saying these in particular, but there are geoengineering groups that are infiltrated. And what I mean by that is they will pull you along only so far, and then they'll, give you 99 truths to slip in one lie, or they'll draw you along so that you'll trust them and believe in them. And then they'll throw you the whammy where you're like, oh, that doesn't really add up. That happens in all sorts of organizations. It happens with, pro-life. It happens with reduced taxes. It happens in the freedom movement. It certainly happens with all of the hogwash. There are plenty of people that are, telling us that, those darn cocktails just weren't tested enough. Now, if they were tested and if they weren't faulty and if there was not a defective batch, then you could trust them. That's what they're telling us. But I know that you're too smart to fall for that. You see, you made it through the first phase of the hogwash unscathed, ideally. And there are many people that have hopped on board from that time who even went along with it. And then they realized, this isn't the real deal. So then there's a whole next group of gatekeepers trying to prevent you to get through the gate to the real truth. And it happens in the climate world. And it certainly happens in the clean, I'll just call it clean skies organizations as well. And when I started to research the, geoengineering, stop the geoengineering in Rhode Island, it was all about climate change and how humans are killing the planet. And you know what? We are, but it's the humans in an airplane or the humans that are flying the drones that are spraying the skies. They're the ones that are killing the climate, not you and me with our plastic straws, which are outlawed in California because, climate. Cars are basically built with plastic. My glasses are made with plastic. All sorts of things that they use in the medical field are made out of plastic. So how they're going to get rid of plastic catheters and plastic IV bags and all of that, that's news to me. Are they going to make them out of metal or, what is that called? Compostable corn or something? Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen. I digress, but it all falls under the same category of the hogwash that is being sloshed all over us. Like my sister said, at least in the air, we can see that they're doing it. We don't know what they're doing to our water, or our food for that matter. So let's keep our eyes and keep our focus on this fight. So many of you are asking me to bring more coverage, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And there are some action steps. Let's just get to those right away. So every state has a type of EPA. In California, it's called the California EPA. And you can just giggle it, as I say, and find out where to leave your complaint. Now, I don't think that your complaint is actually going to suddenly change everything, but it is going to be that drip, 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 that irritation method of trying to get the attention of those evildoers. And I know people that have actually had conversations with individuals that have called them back after they left the comment. And they say, have you looked in the air? How can you not see what's going on? And I want to know who's behind it. And I want you to tell me what you're doing about it. So keep on that type of action. You can also write to the EPA. I started digging into government grants related to clean air and the Clean Air Act. I'm only at the beginning of that action, but if any of you want to take that ball and run it, to the finish line there, that would be another place to start to see what is the government doing in your state and at the federal level in terms of actually looking at this. Even in the state of California, surprisingly, maybe not, there are a lot of grants that are going toward what I think are good things like rebuilding the soil. But again, I want to dig deeper to see if there are any nefarious hidden agendas in that. But those are a couple of things right off the bat. Write to your representatives. Get those bumper stickers that say, look up, point to the skies, talk to your friends, ask those innocuous questions like, does that sky look normal to you? You know, let them get engaged in the conversation rather than you just, imposing your opinions. People often will come along when they sort of come to the conclusion on their own. So speaking about that, let me share with you the information from MAROLA. And in an upcoming video, I will bring you more of the details about what's going on in South Dakota and New Hampshire and Rhode Island, but I couldn't find like the end result yet. So I am still digging. All right, let's do this. I'm going to share my screen and we are hopping right on over to MAROLA. And you know that he has also been raked over the coals. He's had his bank shut down. His bank has shut down his accounts and those of his employees. He no longer is on YouTube. Even these articles, my understanding is that they come down very quickly and go into the vault. Now, I don't expect you to be able to read this, but I did want to show you where I am getting the information. And the headline says, military routinely disperses aluminum, coated fiberglass into the air. So let me just, I will have this linked for you in the Substack, peggyhall.substack.com. Thank you, everyone. I've had several generous subscribers who upgraded to a paid subscription, which means you're invited to our private monthly live webinar where we're talking face to face. You don't have to be on the camera, but I'm answering your questions. You're connecting in the chat. So anyone that is a supporter, you are invited. And if you think you should be invited and you weren't, please email my assistant. And that is support@thehealthyamerican.org. So here we go. Militaries actually around the world routinely disperse tiny bits of aluminum coated fiberglass and plastic known as chaff, right? Separating the wheat from the chaff, as the Bible says, into the air column to shield aircraft and ships from enemy radar. First of all, because I'm a healthy skeptic, in addition to being a healthy American, I don't even know if I believe this story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this could be a cover story for everything that they're spraying into the air. Because how in the non-spinning world, as I like to say, is aluminum coated fiberglass going to shield aircrafts and ships from enemy radar? Inquiring minds want to know, does it magically attach itself to these aircraft and the ships, or is it floating into space? And if it's floating into space, exactly how long does it remain before it disperses? And if it's floating in space, then you'd only need to do it once, wouldn't you? And how many of these enemy aircraft and ships are out there anyway? So I don't even know if I believe the top line of the story, but I did want to bring it to your attention because many of you are telling me about it since it was reported today. It's so interesting to me that, and I'm not saying this is MAROLA, but often I will report something in my Substack and then I'll see people doing videos on it later. And I'm grateful that my information is inspiring others to continue the coverage. All right. It says, this article says that chaff has been used for decades without clear evidence that it's safe for humans and the environment, because, the government cares about the humans much more than they care about the environment. How do you like this? In response to a United Nations, you know how I feel about them, intergovernmental panel on climate change. Yes, it does exist, friends. I know. I just need to let you know there's winter, spring, summer, and fall. Only, wouldn't you know, now it's all mixed up. And we've kind of had winter in summer and summer in winter. Yes. Their report announced that the United Nations is considering spraying sulfate aerosols into the Earth's stratosphere to modify climate. And that was back in 2021. The tiny reflective particles, kind of like what we see in the sky already, would act as reflectors, bouncing sunlight back into space instead of onto the Earth's surface. I've done videos on this before. Bill Gates has given millions of dollars to Harvard University for their climate change solar screening or solar engineering. I will link for you. I've got a weather playlist if you want to watch that, or maybe I will update that video for you. Let me know in a comment if you'd like to see an update on that. Again, I don't even know if I believe this top line story. They are probably telling us that they're doing the solar screening to prevent the harmful sun's rays. Yes, we're always told that the sun is so harmful because, again, God made a mistake. And, the sun is bad for you, which is why plants need sunlight in order to grow. Food, things that we eat, they need sunlight. So do human beings to create vitamin D and build strong bones. And you actually need cholesterol in your body, which when you are out in the sun and there's a little bit of sweat on your skin and you've got the cholesterol interacting with vitamin D, it actually keeps you healthy. I don't know if I'm able to say that. So I'll just give a disclaimer that this is all satire. In any case, here we have it. So they are releasing this radio frequency chaff as an electronic countermeasure designed to reflect radar waves and obscure planes, ships, and other assets from radar tracking sources. It is dispensed from military vehicles in cartridges or projectiles. So that's kind of interesting. So it says training for military pilots, particularly aircraft pilots, in the use of chaff is necessary to deploy this electronic countermeasure effectively. So what say you? Do you believe that this is a cover story for what they're doing? Do you believe that the reflective particles to stop the rays of the sun from getting to the earth is a cover story? Or do you think that that's actually what they're doing? I think it's a cover story. I think this is poison straight up. And it's a slow poison because they need some of us alive to be their slaves and to experiment on and to mock and ridicule because that's what they do best. But I do want to share with you a very interesting email that came in. Pam says, funny that they're not spraying in Switzerland, which is where the WHO, what, where, when, and why is meeting. Kelly's been talking about this for 10 years, and she said we need to stop it or all life, will be affected. And Quantitative says the aluminum particles don't just reflect the sun in one direction. The sun's rays get magnified and refracted as well. That is such an interesting insight. And so let me do this. I'm going to go to a couple of pictures as well. Why don't I share my screen right now? These were images that I wanted to share with you yesterday and I didn't quite have queued up. So remember, I will link some of these for you in my Substack. This is in Southern California. And I just want you to see the air itself. So you can see the sky, definitely that's been affected. And this is going through a windshield, but it's not that dirty of a windshield. This is what the air looks like. It's thick, it's heavy, it's got the particulates in it. I don't know if you can make it out right here where I'm drawing with my cursor. I don't know if you can even see that on this screen share, but you see in the foreground, there are some trees. In the next part, there are a couple of dark hills, and then there's a little more faded hill. And then these are actually mountains that are completely obscured by the debris in the air. It literally is stomach turning. It smells bad. The air is thick. It's difficult to see, almost like a fog. Here you can see again. And behind this, there's probably more mountains behind it. And it's just despicable. This was actually out in Palm Springs. So again, you can barely see the outline of the mountains with the palm tree in the foreground, a little residue. That might even be a natural cloud. I don't know. And up here, the sky looks blue. So if you look up, you're like, oh, look at that nice blue sky. But no, all of the residue has settled. And I am a person that used to I used to go to Palm Springs a lot back in the day when it was actually clear blue, brilliant skies. It was like fantastic. You would come into Palm Springs. It was a vacation destination. And now it is absolutely gray and milky and depressing, which is one of the fallouts literally that they're doing. Okay, this is the image I wanted to share with you. And thank you to my lovely Healthy American James. You guys, you know what? This is in Florida. As my sister calls it, Floridia, because there are Floridians in Floridia. And I want to share with you his email that came in today. And it's actually kind of distressing. So he said, "Dear Peggy, I saw your video on all of the new, totally normal clouds and strange weather patterns. I wanted to share with you that here in South Florida, we've been having strange and unseasonably cloudy, rainy weather all year, starting in May of last year. Let me know, friends, that's what is happening in California. The weather has been really wet. And yes, we are officially out of a drought right now, but you know that Daddy Newsom will put us back into a drought emergency as soon as he can. But let me know if the weather has been strange, not just the skies, but if the weather has been strange where you are." He goes on to say, "In South Florida, we normally have two seasons, the rainy season, which is May through September, and then the dry season, which is mid-October through April. During the rainy season," he said, so that's in basically the summer months, "the days start out sunny and humid, and then the clouds begin to build naturally until they build up in the afternoon, and then there's a heavy, late tropical thunderstorm. The sky clears, it turns sunny again until sunset." He said it's like clockwork pretty much every day. That sounds fantastic. He said the dry season is characterized by clear, dry, cool, consistently sunny days, perfect for tourists. So that would be where we are right now. So basically October through April. He said last year, the rain came early and was characterized by abnormally gloomy, cloudy, and rainy stationary fronts. He says this is very uncharacteristic of South Florida any time of the year. He said there's been constant rain, drizzling, and flooding for days, capital letters, especially, he says, in Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, where the flooding made national news last year. He said, instead of the typically sunny days with the late afternoon thunderstorms that clear by early evening. Now, I've spent some time in Hawaii, and that's a very typical pattern in the tropics where you start out with the sunny days. I mean, it's not 100% like that, but that is very typical. And then you have the tropical rainstorms. I was in Australia some years ago, and it was the same thing. I was in their tropical area, and that's what it was like. You would have the beautiful mornings. The clouds would come in, they'd look natural and normal. You'd have the thunderstorms, everything would be cleaned and refreshed and watered and smelled good. And then you'd have the beautiful sunsets, and then it would start over the next day. So that was my personal experience in the tropics in two areas. He said, these abnormal, gloomy, cloudy, gloomy is really like what it is. And it's depressing. That's why we say, you know, people are like, it's gloomy. It's not something you want to enjoy. It's not enjoyable. Cloudy, rainy, drizzly, stationary fronts, which is also weird to me. And I know I have a couple of meteorologists here in the chat, or have. So what are these stationary fronts? Is that normal? Don't they move, and don't they have a predictable weather pattern in the direction that they go and how long they stay? He goes on to say that the stationary fronts have continued consistently almost every single day, and we are already well into our dry season. So he's talking from May until February. I mean, that's just like 3/4 of the year, right? He said, like you say, it is absolutely depressing and demoralizing. Friends, just as an aside, there's a little bit more to this email. I think that is one of their main side effects that they want people to feel depressed. You don't want to go outside. If it's raining, maybe you're not able to do your outdoor activities, and maybe you're unable to grow your food or your vegetable garden as you normally are. Maybe you're not going to go travel and drive because it might be dangerous in this kind of weather. So it is another type of shutdown. It's like a climate shutdown or a weather shutdown. He says, I have lived in South Florida for most of my life, almost 40 years, and I have never seen weather act like this. He said the weather this past year is both uncharacteristic and unseasonable, topsy-turvy, if you will, and very depressing. He said also here, too, the skies are frequently milky, hazy and smoky, like I showed you the picture in California, and that's what it looked like as well. He said, I've attached a picture of a type of tree that drops its leaves at the beginning of the dry season, which is October, and then it leaves out again at the beginning of the rainy season, which is late May, early June. And he wrote, confused by all of this unseasonably wet weather, it prematurely leafed out and is now apparently dying. He said, it's quite sad. I'm going to share my screen and you'll see this. Here are the two pictures that he sent me. And I'm not sure if it's the same tree, but let me share my screen. And I really appreciate hearing from all of you, letting me know what's going on in your neck of the woods. So this tree right here looks very healthy. And you can see, unfortunately, these, I don't know if those are cell towers, maybe just lights. And then look at the next image. The tree apparently looks like it's not doing so well. So that is quite depressing and demoralizing and distressing, as he says. So that's what I have for you today, friends. I wanted to let you know that there are people that are aware of this and that are doing things at the state level. We need to be on guard for those that are infiltrating and trying to lead us astray. And that just takes deeper thinking, critical thinking, if you will, asking questions. And there are some people that have been on the scenes of this for a long time. There are other people that are relatively new, like me and Renette. But because we have a platform and we have people that are asking us to cover this information, it's my pleasure to bring this to you. So I also want to dive into the legislation. And in states like California, where you've got a trifecta, where basically our House of Representatives, so to speak, and it's called the Assembly, and then we have our Senate. Both of those, including the governor, including basically all of the courts, they're all Democrat ruled. So trying to push this through would take a very creative way of spinning it in terms of, climate change and dirty air and saving the environment and saving the skies. And I think that can be done, but there's another way of doing it. So another is to get it as a referendum, an initiative actually on the ballot, because we have that in California. More than 50% of the states in the United States have, my understanding, have that type of action in your state where you can get something put to a popular vote in an election. So wouldn't that be amazing? Now, we have many hurdles to face because you know that the government is corrupt. And just because there's a law doesn't mean that they're going to follow it. But we need to go incrementally, just like the bad guys go incrementally. And we need to let them know that we're onto them and rattle their cages. Now, actually, in California, we had a couple of clear days, very, very bright and sunny. It's almost like they take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit and then they accelerate. And is it because people are speaking out about it? Is there some kind of pattern? I do want to get to the bottom of this, and I know that you do too. So that's it for today, friends. Tomorrow is Friday. And I always like to have something that's a little more encouraging on Fridays, not so much of the heavy coverage that can be a little distressing. So tomorrow I've got a video for you that will explain and give you 5 ways to tame the tyrants in your very own life. Forget about all of the public serpents and the board of stupid advisors. There are people that probably drive you crazy and are tyrants that you have to deal with. And I want to give you some steps that I've used in my life. And I'll share with you some mistakes that I made and ways that I learned from what I did. And I'm applying that in the future. So that will be for you tomorrow. I'm so grateful to have you all on board. Love my audience. Love reading your comments. Love how you interact and bring more information for me to share as well. So I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming broadcast, always over at peggyhall.substack.com, the vault with all of my videos. That's at peggyhall.tv. And many of you are subscribing to Rumble. And that is where I have a lot of my videos. And that would be a place to find me if I go missing. Hopefully I'll be here with you. And I want to thank the moderators as well. Always appreciate all of you with your support, your sophistication, and a little bit of snark, just as I like it. See you soon, everybody.